It's 2 a.m., your body is exhausted, but your mind refuses to shut off. A conversation from hours ago comes back, and you replay every word. You tell yourself you're figuring it out, but your brain rewards you for thinking, even when that thinking solves nothing. The feeling of progress and actual progress are not the same thing. So why does your mind treat empty thinking like real work? Old conversations aren't the only thing that gets replayed. Some people rehearse arguments they may never actually have. Others prepare apologies for mistakes that haven't happened yet. A few even plan out how to respond if a coworker says something that hasn't been said. None of these scenarios need to happen for the thinking to feel urgent and necessary. Psychologists have a term for this pattern: the illusion of mental progress. Your mind feels like it's working through something, even when it isn't. Two brain regions are involved here. The prefrontal cortex normally acts like a manager, guiding thought and calming urgency. So what tips the balance toward endless replay? A background network, the default mode network, keeps running self-referential thoughts when you're not focused on a task. When rumination takes over, that background network can overpower the manager. The result is a mind that stays switched on, with no clear signal telling it to stop. It isn't a sign of weakness. It's closer to a system that never learned when to power down. Research suggests part of what keeps this loop going is dopamine. Dopamine is often linked to reward, but it's also tied to the act of seeking answers. One possible explanation: your brain releases a small dopamine hit just for turning a problem over. That happens whether or not the problem gets any closer to being solved. That reward doesn't check for results. It only responds to the act of thinking itself. In other words, your brain can't easily tell the difference between real progress and the motion of thinking. So the more you think, the more that small reward keeps you thinking. That's why 2 a.m. can feel productive. You're not procrastinating in your own mind. You're getting a small reward for every scenario you run. Same thing happens during the day. You sit at your desk, replaying a meeting instead of finishing the work in front of you. But when morning comes, or the meeting ends, nothing about the situation has actually changed. The only thing that changed is how tired you are. So if the feeling of progress can't be trusted, how do you know when thinking is actually helping? Not all overthinking works the same way. Psychologists split it into two very different patterns. Reflective thinking moves toward understanding. It asks a question and looks for an answer. Brooding thinking stays stuck. It replays the same moment without ever reaching a conclusion. Someone using reflective thinking after a hard conversation might ask what triggered their reaction. They walk away with a clearer sense of themselves. Someone caught in brooding just replays the same 3 seconds over and over, without ever landing anywhere new. The first builds insight. The second just burns energy, and it's associated with poorer sleep and higher stress over time. This isn't the only place your brain confuses a feeling with the truth. The same kind of mix-up happens with familiar information. Repetition alone can make a claim feel true, even when nothing about it has been verified. In both cases, your brain uses an internal feeling as a shortcut for something it should actually check. It trusts the feeling instead of checking the evidence. Try this after a few minutes of thinking about a problem. Ask yourself if you've actually learned anything new. If the answer is no, and the thoughts just keep repeating, that's brooding, not problem solving. A second sign: try summarizing what you figured out in one sentence. If you can't, you probably didn't figure anything out. Noticing this doesn't stop the thoughts by force. It just takes away their disguise. None of this means thinking itself is the enemy. The problem isn't that your mind is active. The problem is trusting the feeling of effort as proof that something is being solved. Once you can tell the difference, that 2 a.m. loop starts to lose its grip. Your mind isn't broken, it's just been rewarding the wrong thing.